following episode most likely contains graphic language, details of violence, and murder, and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 40 of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother, sitting right here. Episode 40!
What the fuck is going on, everybody?
I swear, because I'm always super surprised at what episode it is, but episode 40. So it's also because we started in 2020, of October of 2020.
Yep.
So it's also our 2-year, I guess, anniversary episode.
Yeah, we just had our 2-year, which was super, super strange to reflect back on. It felt really quick, but then when you think about everything that's happened.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's like we started this as like a passion project.
Yeah. And
then it kind of like took off and did its own thing. And I mean, we're super thankful for all of our listeners and now our viewers. And yeah. So
yeah, it's super cool to get the feedback that we're still getting and people just finding out about us. I was in the washroom at work today and a girl said, while I was in the stall, oh, hey, is that you, Christie? I'm going to start listening to your podcast pretty soon.
Inappropriate podcast, and now you're everybody's boss, so that's the best part about it.
That is the best.
You're like, sorry, can you just skip episode this to episode that?
Yeah.
Well, we love all of you guys, and we love doing this. Like, I love spending time with my mom, as you guys know. She's pretty cool. And
super.
We would just sit and have these conversations anyway, most of the time on FaceTime or
and we still actually do.
Yeah, we still do. It's just researching for these is just our life. That's just what we do anyway. Watch Dateline specials and
I actually
Nancy
listen
Grace.
to it every single night as I fall asleep.
Yeah, she's one of those people. I can't listen to anything as I fall asleep. I have PTSD because one time when you used to have the headphones like this, I tried and I woke up and I was like
you're getting killed.
Yeah, I was getting strangled in my sleep by my headphones.
But did you die?
No, exactly. So, yeah, we always like to start with some current events, but
we just actually had
super current.
Yeah, we just had a sad, terrible thing happen today. There was an RCMP member, a female RCMP officer, was killed in the line of duty today at a homeless encampment. She was stabbed, and just terrible news.
Yeah. So we talked on our last episode about the upheaval? What is that? What's that?
Uptick.
The uptick in the violence just around the city. And this happened in Burnaby, so not very far from Vancouver. Clearly, for the 1,000th time, a lot of people are struggling with their mental health, and I know it was in a homeless encampment.
Yeah, so there was a female RCMP officer stabbed today. She died in the line of duty in a homeless encampment in Burnaby.
Yeah.
And we don't have the details yet, but I'm sure...
No, literally, Mom just read it to me as we were sitting here. So that is really sad.
Our hearts go out to her family.
Yeah.
And, when you take a job that is to protect the public, and then one of the public that you're sworn to protect murders you, that's just, it's terrible, tragic.
It is. And, I know people have, obviously in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of,
mental unwellness.
That. And even just the people are just mad. People are angry, and especially at the police. Because, look at the George Floyd thing. Obviously, that's in the United States. We've talked about that. But the police, at the end of the day, a lot of people, maybe you don't like the police, but the police haven't done anything to deserve to die. That's crazy. Nobody does anything to deserve to die.
Yeah, definitely not.
Well, sometimes, but that's but no, in this instance, they're doing their job, and she had kids. You don't know she was.
Well, she had a family for sure, else
exactly.
she wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So, well.
Captain Obvious.
Yeah, Captain Obvious. Thank you. But yeah, thoughts out to her and her family, and just be safe out there, you guys. It's the same thing I said for the last 5 episodes. People are fucking crazy. And so
and it's still happening over and over and over, where people are just being randomly attacked, sucker punch, and women. Some guys are just going around sucker punching women. What the fuck is that?
No, and honestly, something that I've learned in the last couple of years is nothing that's going on with people has anything to do with you. It's something that's internal, that's going on with them, and sometimes that's mental illness, and they feel the need to sucker punch a stranger or stab them in the neck, or a DoorDash guy. Like, it's crazy, and everyone just needs to stay safe. And
like we always say, tune into your own intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put yourself in vulnerable positions. And
listen to that voice.
yeah.
Like, if your body is telling you like something is wrong, fucking get the fuck out of there. Because
And I'm going to segue this into our episode today because, as many of you know, I have been in the dating scene. And I'm not right now. I'm taking a break because
she's on the sideline. It's too overwhelming. Even the secondhand stories, I'm like, oh God.
Well, and this episode is going to tell you, like,
Mom's probably not going to do it for 3 years after this episode.
well, I don't know if I can go 3 years, but
sorry,
a couple more weeks
Yeah.
anyway.
3 weeks, sorry.
Yeah.
But today's episode, because it's episode 40, we wanted to bring you guys a good one. And I know that you guys love when we talk about crazy fucking shit on this show. So
This one's a crazy fucking shit.
this is crazy. And we've had a lot of people write in for this case because it is super crazy. It's something that if you were to just, you could read this, or this could be a movie plot, and you'd be like, that would so never, ever happen.
Yeah.
But
guess what?
it did. And we talk about that kind of stuff a lot. So with that, I guess we'll jump right into the episode.
Yes.
So, okay.
So this is going to be episode 40 for y'all.
Episode 40. Yep. So it was 2012 in Omaha, Nebraska, when 35-year-old Dave Kroupa left a 12-year relationship with Amy Flora, who was the mother of his 2 children. So, like some of us, after a long relationship, I've never actually really had that long of a relationship. I think my longest relationship has been like almost 3 years.
Oh,
So,
God.
yeah, I've never.
I didn't even realize that.
I know, like, thanks, Mom, for paying attention to me. I've had, like, tumultuous relationships that were, like, they lasted, like, way longer than they should have, but never that long. So, yeah, 3 years running. But anyway, Dave Kroupa, after he got out of his 12-year relationship with the mother of his kids, I can imagine he was in, like husband mode, right?
And he was 35 at the time. So
Yeah.
he had been in this relationship since
He was
23, which obviously, you do a lot of growing in your 20s and your 30s, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, even just having kids, like,
Yeah.
you like birth a new person when you have children. When you become a parent,
Yeah.
it's like you give birth to a child, but you also give birth to this new version of yourself. Or in a dad's, case, then obviously they're, you learn a lot about yourself. I think dads learn a little less, but I think, yeah.
It's just an observation.
It just is, yeah. So because of that, he said that he didn't really have a lot of time because of his kids and he's working. So in 2012, I mean, when did internet dating become a thing?
I was internet dating.
I know you were.
Back when it first began on many different platforms.
99. Yeah, well, what was in that day? It was what? Plenty of Fish.
No, it was Lava
Black
Life.
Planet.
It was Lava Life.
Okay, so Lava Life. I mean, obviously, some of them have stayed around. Some of them have kind of like died off. But now there's like, apps. There's Tinder. So this is basically the 2012 version.
I don't recommend Tinder.
Not unless you're looking for a hookup, I've heard.
Not even.
No.
I don't think-
Honestly, for me, internet dating has never been, it's never been appealing because I like to meet people. Like, even if you're not physically attracted to somebody, for me, it's like when you get to know them, that's where the attraction comes. Like, if they're funny or if they're...
Except for when they show up and it looks like they just had a fishing accident or something like that.
Or if they've... Yeah, never mind. I'm just going to
Yeah.
cut that one.
Anywho, I could do a whole comedy routine on internet dating.
100%. Me too, and I haven't even done it. So...
Yeah. Well, you've witnessed your mother do it.
Yeah. So anyway, Dave was just living his best life, and he was internet dating. So he just moved into a little apartment. He was apparently he didn't even have furniture. He's like, but he had a
That's like
computer.
every guy I ever met.
Ever, right? They don't have a fitted sheet on their bed either. So don't be surprised, ladies, when you go home with a bachelor, and not all, but some. Get fitted sheets on your beds.
Bachelors.
That's a PSA, for
PSA.
me. Put fitted sheets on your
Especially
bed.
if
I'm going to
you're-
repeat it.
Yeah.
Oh, and get a bed frame. Like, it was just a mattress on the floor. At least it's not a blow-up mattress, okay? If you see a blow-up mattress when you go to a dude's house, get the fuck out of there. Anyway, Dave Kroupa had no furniture. And so he was internet dating, and he, in his own words, he's like, I was going a little bit crazy Because he just got out of a 12-year relationship. Like
He was having a
sowing his
lot
seeds.
of sex.
Yeah,
a lot of
basically.
sex.
And he was pretty upfront from the beginning with everybody. Like, he didn't want anything serious. He was not in the serious boat. He was not looking for a relationship. He was strictly looking to have
Get
sex.
laid. Yeah.
Which, good for you, Dave. At least, you know what? The thing is about guys and girls, if you're upfront, I mean,
The
whatever.
only problem is, as Dave Kroupa soon began to find out, I know that as soon as you say to someone that you're not looking for anything serious, that's when everybody's crazy comes out.
Yeah.
Because they think that they can talk you into looking for something serious
Or that
just
you'll
by
love them so
being
much, right?
extra fucking crazy and clingy.
Or they'll be like behind the scenes where they'll not show all that side, obviously, which is kind of a peek into the rest of this episode. So with dating, he said he met a couple girls, whatever, but then he met someone named Liz. She went by Liz, but her first name was actually Shanna. And so Shanna Elizabeth Gollier. But
She went by Liz.
she went by Liz. And in Dave's words, she was super cool, super
Sexy.
sexy, which again, I know beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I didn't see it. But
I didn't see it
even
either.
Dave, okay? Like Dave's a mediocre, again, you know, maybe his personality is like super, super great. I
Maybe
don't
he's
know.
hung like a donkey. I mean, you don't know.
You don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think anything.
Well, he's
There
not your type.
He's not my type. That's what we'll say. Yeah. So they dated, but he was dating everybody. Like, he was dating everyone and their fucking moms. Like, literally, I feel that was what was going on. So he was dating Liz, and they were keeping it very casual. He's like, I was doing my thing. Liz was doing her thing. Liz was doing her thing.
Liz was doing her thing.
So anyway, that lasted for a couple months. It was like about 6 months after he met Liz and all these other girls that he was at work one day.
And he owned a mechanic's shop.
Yeah. So he was at work, and a lady walked in with her Ford Explorer and needed it fixed. And she was, like, right off the bat, he said, you know, we had a connection. I think he had a connection with fucking anyone he looked at, but
But
no
apparently,
judgment.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, have your fun, Dave. Like,
I feel a little
whatever.
bit jealous because
Yeah, Mom's about to just be like, oh my God, we have a connection. But anyway, so he said they were standing there by her under her hood, and there was so much chemistry. So by chance, Dave found her a couple days later on
online.
online dating. Which I'm like, okay, that's a little bit sus, Dave, because you can't just find someone you just happen to run into.
Well, fate stepped in.
There you go. Well, horrible fate. Poor this poor lady. So anyway, this lady's name was Cari Farver. And
She was
37.
attractive.
She was, yeah.
Yep.
In every picture you see of her, she was like a chameleon. Like, she had like every single haircut you could think of in the
Yep.
book. She was 37 years old, and she had a 14-year-old son named Maxwell. And so she wasn't with Maxwell's dad, I think, from a really early age. Like,
She had him really young, obviously,
yeah,
at 22.
right? Yeah.
And it didn't work out. And she made the choice, like right from the get-go of getting pregnant, that she was going to raise her son alone. And we heard from her mother in a couple of the documentaries that we watched, and she said she was doing a great job raising her son alone. At one point, I think she was struggling a little bit, but as does every single parent in
Well,
their
yeah,
20s. I
and
know I was a single
especially-
parent from the time I was 18, so I know.
Except you were with my dad, but he's probably useless.
Well, I was until I was only 20.
Yeah, which, I mean, at least you had a running
And then
head start.
13 years of single parenting. But so Carrie was just doing her thing, and she had just gotten a new job as a computer programmer.
Yeah, but in her like mid-20s, actually, because like we said, it is hard. There's a lot of pressure when you're a single mom.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience, both of us, and she actually was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So she had bipolar and depression. But
yeah.
she was medicated, and for the most part, she did stay on her meds. But once in a while, I mean, anyone you hear with a lot of, I mean, like Kanye West, for example, I don't think that he is on his meds because of the wild shit that he's doing. But I guess when you are an expressive person, it does really numb you. I've heard that it numbs you, and it kind of makes you feel like blah.
And I think bipolar disorder, from what I've observed, the highs are so awesome.
Yeah, but
Like
the lows
are terrible, but the highs are like when you do your best creating and your best work and you feel like you're running around and like doing everything. And then
so again, going back to Kanye West, I mean, I think that's what's happening. Obviously, current events, that's what's going on right now. He's clearly struggling with mental illness. But Carrie's mom, Nancy, said that she would go off her meds, but then she would really quickly realize like it would put her in such a depressive state when she wasn't
that
on
she wouldn't
them.
even be able to get out of bed.
No, and she couldn't even be there for her son. And as a parent that is the lone parent, like it is very important for you to kind of put your mental health on the forefront of, you know, your parenting. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your child.
Single parents are doing the whole job on their own, and they're generally closer to their kids because you're sharing a bond that's like it's like a trauma bond, really.
Yeah, exactly, because you guys are navigating, especially when you start young, right? Like we always say, we grew up together because we did. You know, that's what you don't realize is when you're a kid, you're growing up with your parents. You're watching your parents grow up too.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she was pretty good with taking her meds, right? And she was always there for her son. So that was one thing. So do you want to go into like about their first date and stuff?
So as I started to say that she got a new job in just across the river. So it was like, I think 5 minutes. How far was it away? It was 2 different states, but it was just across a bridge. It was an hour.
Yeah.
So she was from Nebraska. She was from Iowa, and Dave lived in Nebraska, but it was an hour away and it was just over the river.
Yeah.
So she got this job in Nebraska. So when her car broke down, she happened to be close to her office. She met Dave. He approached her on the dating site and they agreed to go out with each other. So he took her to Applebee's. Fancy like that, for a date. It's not that great. Has like a salad bar. Might like it. Anyway, they went there and I guess the sparks were still flying over dinner because they went home together right after dinner.
Yeah.
And I guess they were kissing and stuff like that. And she said to him the magic words. Look, I'm not looking for anything serious here. I'd just like to have some sex.
And if we're going to have sex, that's all it's going to be. And so Dave was like, woo! Probably got a boner just from that.
He probably already had a boner, but he probably came from that.
Probably. And yes, this is a podcast I do with my mom. So we're talking about boners. But anyway, so after that, she didn't sleep over because all they were doing was having sex.
Yeah.
So as she was leaving, Liz,
Shanna Elizabeth Gollier.
She was walking in. So he lived in an apartment. Someone referred to it as a sad single dad apartment. Well, and he had no fucking furniture. So anyway, probably had furniture by that time, I would assume. But yeah, so Shanna Elizabeth Gollier, Liz, we're just going to call her Liz because that's what she refers to herself as, Liz.
Yeah. So Carrie was walking out.
And Liz was walking in. She said she had to get some of her things.
Which is, as we all know, code word for I'm a fucking stalker.
Yeah, and I forgot my bobby pin at your house. I have to come pick it up. Like, fuck.
Did I leave my earrings at the side table?
Yeah, did I leave one of my bobby pins? Literally, like, I remember someone being like, I left a bobby pin, you know, and it's like, oh, just like grasping at straws by that point. And, you know, some people are a little more desperate than others, but it didn't seem to have any effect on Carrie.
No, she just walked past her, like, didn't even, and she never mentioned it to Dave after.
Or any of her friends. In interviews, her friends were like, we never, and they saw her like the next day, never mentioned it. So if something like grinds my gears, I either call you right away or I call my girlfriends and I'm like, you know, you vent to them, you tell them stuff like that, especially about like, you know, things like that. Because how awkward is it? You're going on a first date. I guess not really that awkward for Carrie. So
yeah, she seemed like she was pretty self-confident and pretty like unfazed by, like, she said what she wanted and she meant it.
Yeah.
So she had told her mom about Dave and like everybody kind of knew she had met someone just to hang out with, and they were dating for like 2 weeks.
They
2 weeks.
2 whole weeks. And so what happened was at her job, like we said, it was just like I think a block away from Dave's house. So as opposed to driving a whole hour to get to work, and she worked early in the morning.
And you get tired after you have that release.
that really great work day stresses you out.
Yeah.
But no.
And then you have the release at Dave's house, and then you can just stay
Yeah.
over and go like straight to work. So you're saving on gas money.
Exactly. So she had some big project. And like we said, she did computer programming. So she had a big project that was due. And so Dave offered her, he's like, hey, I'll give you a house key, which it seems like you want to do more than just bang if you're
Dave,
giving
yeah.
someone a house key, Dave. But he said, I'll give you a house key. You can kind of come and go. I'll be home later, blah, blah, blah. Stay over. And she's like, perfect. So on November 13th, 2012, which was just 2 weeks after they met, he said that he left for work at 6:30 in the morning. And when he left, Carrie was up on her laptop having a coffee, and he gave her a kiss goodbye, and they were supposed to see each other that evening. And so obviously he's like, this girl, he said, he's like, she was kind of like, it was like I hit the jackpot because she only wanted sex, which, I mean.
And she didn't give a shit about like, oh my God.
Liz was in your hallway. Like, she didn't care. So she says goodbye to him. He leaves, and that's that.
Until, dun, 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 a couple hours later, he gets a text message from Carrie, his dream girl,
Yeah.
saying,
Who wants nothing serious, who they've had multiple conversations about this.
so he gets a text message from her phone saying, I think we should move in together.
And he was like, I politely declined and said, that is.
I'm not interested.
No, I'm not interested. We haven't known each other long enough. We've talked about this.
We're not yet.
And she just went ham. Like,
She started saying, I hate you. You're a terrible person. Like all this crazy, crazy, crazy shit.
literally crazy. Like, and then started saying stuff about like, you're probably with that fat bitch Liz, and just like stuff where he was super confused because he was like, nobody.
Like
I didn't even get any vibes. Like, she didn't say anything
Yeah.
about it. And usually people are not that good at hiding that, right? That would have come up, even like in a passing and like, so are you still seeing that Liz girl? Like, anything. She just didn't seem to care. So he was super confused. And that same day, Nancy, who was Carrie's mom, she started getting these weird texts because Carrie had actually recently just got that job that she had.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like a really good pay upgrade. It was really great for her and Maxwell, her son, and
I could say maybe she just had job stress and had a breakdown. But
yeah, and ran away.
I wouldn't know
don't
anything
if
about that.
So she started texting her mother, or her mom was receiving these text messages saying, I'm moving to Kansas. I just got a new job.
And I'm not coming home to see my kid. I'm going to Kansas first.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to Kansas.
Watch.
Maxwell.
Yeah.
I'm going to Kansas. And so Nancy was kind of like, obviously confused.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what are you going to do? Okay. So she said, okay, but make sure you pick Maxwell up in a couple days. Your brother's wedding is coming. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was that.
But in meanwhile, Dave is still getting these crazy fucking messages. He said he was getting up to 60 text messages and emails a day.
And they were getting worse and worse and worse. Carrie was not there when he got home, thank God. And then
Thank
he was
fucking God, he's
and
probably
then
thinking.
and then Liz all of a sudden started getting emails and texts too, and she was so confused, like, how did this woman find my number? How does she know my email? Like, they were
Yeah.
both super stumped over it. They were getting like meaner and meaner, and
Super mean.
you're a whore and you're fat and you're a fucking
I hope you
asshole.
fucking kill yourself,
Yeah.
and just all this horrible stuff. And then someone vandalized Liz's garage and put
Liz went in to her garage. It was
Yeah.
inside her garage.
Yeah.
And what did it say?
whore from Dave.
That doesn't even make sense.
Like a huge spray paint whore from Dave. Doesn't make sense. But she was like, Dave, like, called the police, called this. And the police went and they were like to Dave, like, did you write whore from you? Like, sign it with your signature and everything. Hello, Dave. And he was like,
No, it's this crazy bitch that I was dating for 2 weeks that went crazy, and now she's doing all this stuff. And they were like, oh, we've seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, Carrie's mother is getting more and more concerned because she's getting text messages also that she's saying to her daughter, like, call me, we need to make
Yeah.
arrangements. And she's saying, no, this needs to be good enough.
Well, yeah, she not only did she miss picking up Maxwell for the brother's wedding.
She didn't go to the brother's wedding.
No, she didn't go to the brother's wedding. And she didn't even just miss her brother's wedding. She missed Maxwell's birthday, his 15th birthday, which she would have never missed. She missed her own birthday. She missed Thanksgiving. She missed her own father's funeral. So that's something that
the time was stretching out.
It
And her mom, after 2 weeks of her being gone, called the police in their state to report her as a missing person.
Yeah.
But once she mentioned that she had struggles with mental illness and was diagnosed as bipolar in her 20s, then they totally discounted the fact that she was missing. They didn't even look for her at all.
No, they were like, oh, she probably just went off her meds and she'll come back. And if she doesn't come back, then she just went off her meds.
And everybody was like, she was still communicating with everybody. Like she was communicating with Max on Facebook. She would answer him.
Hey, lil man.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? So he was like, I want you to tell me 3 things. What was our first boxer's name? What's my best friend's name? And what's my middle name? And then she put this big thing on Facebook, Carrie. I don't need to prove myself to anybody. Like, pretty much all of you can fuck off is what she said. Like, I'm down here. Sorry if you're mad that I left. And just this big, long tangent about, like, I'm off. She said to her mom, I sold all my belongings, and I need you to let this lady in. And she sent her mom a check.
A picture of a check.
A picture of a check. Like, she bought all my stuff.
And so her mom went and let the lady in.
Yeah, and she took all her stuff. So basically, at the same time, Dave is still getting all of these messages, emails. He's getting now text messages saying, like, I see you sitting in your blue shirt and he was
in your
like,
chair.
what the fuck? Because he was wearing a blue shirt sitting in his chair. And Liz is still getting hundreds of messages, thousands. Like, they said that in all the time, it was like 15,000 emails.
Yeah.
And like more text messages.
It was like next level.
And to date someone for 2 weeks and then have them go fucking so crazy.
I told you he was hung like a donkey.
He probably, I guess. Well, you can't see why. Like, I don't know. Like I said, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So I just fucking have my eyes closed, I guess. I don't know.
So then Dave just happened to notice right by his house Carrie's Ford Explorer.
Yeah,
like
was sitting there. So
like
he
how much longer? Like a long time later, her
like
Ford
3 weeks later.
her Ford Explorer was just sitting, and he knew the car because he had done work on it, and so he called the cops
to be like, this bitch is harassing. She's parked in my like parking lot, harassing me, and at the same time, Liz is still getting all these messages. So what ended up happening is the two. We've talked about trauma bonding before.
Yeah,
they were both like
trauma bonded, completely
traumatized by being stalked and harassed by Carrie. So they got back together. They started dating, and I think it got a little more serious because he, I think, saw that, okay, Liz
she was loyal.
She's loyal because now, what did I do? I brought this crazy stalker into her life.
I really don't think he stopped fucking other people, though. He was
probably not. I don't think so. He said again, Liz was doing her thing and I was doing my thing. So he's still probably having sex with everybody, which, again, no judgment, Dave. You do your thing. But maybe you need a better picker because you're
and they were getting text messages like they started calling Carrie Crazy Carrie, and they would be sitting there like if they went for dinner or they were watching a movie or whatever, and they would both get text messages at the same time,
which is a little suspicious because whose phones both go off at the same time, but obviously Liz is sitting beside him getting these same messages. He feels horrible. So the next thing you know, Liz's house got burned down.
The whole thing. And no one was home. Her kids, Liz also had 2 kids, and her kids weren't home and she wasn't home. But her dog was there, or her 2 dogs were there. Her cat was there.
And
her snake was there.
And they all perished in this fire. And so I actually have a clip. Hold on, I'll play it. It's her talking with the investigator about her house burning down and what happened. So hold on, let me play that.
Pretty obvious this is intentionally set fire.
The guy that I'm seeing, he has a girlfriend who dated for 2 weeks, and she's been stalking me since November.
Do you know her name?
It's Carrie, Cari. But she has made threats towards me and my kids. She would kept texting me telling me she wanted to kill me and my kids. You would think they were married as much as she's stalking me. She won't leave me alone. She will not go away. I just wish she would go away.
So if you hear at the end, she's like, she won't go away. I just wish she would go away, which is like horrible because if you're really being stalked by somebody and I've been stalked, okay? I've been stalked on Facebook and it's fucking creepy, especially remember when someone sent me flowers and they said,
it was a poem from Rumi.
Yeah, it was, you are not the ocean.
Something about the depth of the
being
ocean.
in a drop. You are not the ocean, or you are not a drop in the ocean. You are an ocean in a drop, or something like that.
Someone will know.
I still to this fucking day don't know who sent me those, and it's creepy. So I can imagine like her house got burnt down
with her pets,
who, and so anyway, it's hard not to feel sorry for her.
So the cops went through the Explorer when they found it, and they just saw a bunch of random stuff in the Explorer.
Yeah.
But there was a mint container in the middle of the console, and it had one perfect fingerprint on it. And the strange thing was that fingerprint did not match Carrie's fingerprint.
Or anyone else in the FBI database.
Yeah, so they just took the Explorer and put it to the side, like hoping she'd come back for it. It was in the police lockup for a long time.
Yeah.
They just left it there.
And her mom got a call from a homeless shelter. I don't remember where the homeless shelter was, but finally, after months and months, like she gets this call and they're like, oh, Carrie's here and she wants you to come pick her up. So she was so excited. Like, obviously you probably have mixed emotions. Like you're probably like, what the fuck? Where the fuck have you been? Where did you go? Like if I just took off and was like, leave you with the kids and then,
oh God,
called you and was like, come and get me. So she goes down there. She goes with the detective who she's, wanting to investigate this case, who has been investigating, but it kind of went cold, and then they get this call. So she goes down there, and the officer comes out and says, no, Carrie's not in there. And so, again, raising her hopes up just to, like, bring her down. And this is your missing child, so this is not – it's not something that, is like a light topic. Like,
but Nancy had a gut feeling, and like I always say, our gut feelings never lead us astray. Nancy actually had a dream that her husband, who passed away, came to her in this dream, and she said it was very vivid, and he said, don't worry about her anymore, she's with me.
Yeah.
And Nancy had a feeling that she
didn't want to believe that Carrie was dead because she wanted to, hope
but
for
she
the
had
best.
A feeling.
Yeah.
And so finally, after all this time, 2 police officers from Iowa who had just started on the force, they volunteered to look into this case. They're like, it's a single mom.
Yeah.
It's really weird that someone would just leave their kid and no one's seen her.
So out of character.
Yeah.
And the mom was like, this is not something my daughter would do. Yes, she struggled with mental health, but it was not. It's like they just, honed in on the mental health aspect.
And then, so they agreed to basically voluntarily take the case, like for free. Mm-hmm. And they went at it and worked it as one of them was going to prove that she was alive, and one of them was looking at it like she was dead. Mm-hmm. So by the time they got finished, they looked into her, her checking account.
Well, and those are the main flags of when someone is dead or when someone goes missing. Those are the 2 things. Is there any money that they're spending?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, they're probably off somewhere or something's been stolen, whatever. But there was no activity in her checking account.
And her car was abandoned.
Mm-hmm. Her house, everything was left in her house. She didn't have any of her things.
So, I mean, they pretty much surmised pretty quickly that she was no longer living.
Yeah.
But then that makes things even more crazy because if she's not living, who's doing all this stuff?
Well, and then exactly in the state right beside, they're investigating Carrie as a stalker. So now she's a stalker and a harasser. But in the other state right 5 minutes away, she is
missing and dead.
So, I mean, what's going on?
So those police went over to the next police in Nebraska. And oddly enough, they just happened to be in the police station when someone, bet you can guess who, was walking down the hallway of the police station. It was Liz coming in to make yet another story in the police station.
And this was years later now. So this is like I said, she has been stalked for years. And Dave has been stalked for years. Like Dave had someone come over that he was like high school sweethearts with, like came over, and all of a sudden they were spending the night together, and someone threw a fucking Dave. Someone threw a brick through the front window and said, like, was texting Carrie, this is who they think it is texting, like, I know you're with that fat whore, and, like, just all this horrible stuff. Like, let Dave live, you know? Like, Dave's just trying to
Dave's still
get
getting
it
laid
in.
through this whole thing.
Dave's getting it in. Dave doesn't care. I mean, Dave obviously is affected because he bought a gun, actually.
Yeah,
he bought a
did.
gun because he's worried. His kids are there sometimes in the non-furnished apartment, you know? So he bought a gun. I'm sure he had furniture by this time, but probably still not a fitted sheet on his bed, but he's still getting it.
So this is over 2 years later. And they, as the police are leaving down the hallway of the police station, they see Liz there. And now Liz has gone there and she's changed her story.
Well, she's like, I really don't think that it's actually Carrie, who I thought was Carrie for all these years. I actually think it is Dave's ex-girlfriend, Amy Flora, that's been stalking me all this time. And they're like, huh.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
So now the police talked to her and said, like, hey, we're actually investigating Carrie as a missing person.
Yeah, we don't believe she's even alive.
No, we think something has happened to her. And she's like, well, I don't know. I didn't even know her. I just met her once, like barely, briefly walked by her. And they're like, okay.
And so the police are kind of like starting to clue into the fact that who always has these stories and who's having all this victimization and who's getting attention from it.
And who's getting back with Dave when the shit hits
Yeah.
the fan and like when the crazy shit happens? It's Liz. So super sexy selfie taking Liz.
So they start like looking into things, and at one point they get Liz's cell phone and she gives it to them freely, and they start looking through it. But oddly, they find a photo on Liz's cell phone of the Explorer, of Carrie's Explorer, that was dated before Dave even found the Explorer.
Well, before like no one knew where it was. And another thing is Dave got a message from Carrie and said, I have Liz tied up in a trunk and you better call her and tell her you fucking hate her and like all this stuff. And so he gets this picture of someone that looks like Liz with duct tape on her mouth and her hands are tied and she's in a trunk of a car. So he calls Liz and he's like, hey, you're not tied up in a trunk of a car, right? And she's like, ha ha ha, no, why? Like, why would you say that? Obviously, this makes him reach out to Liz.
Yeah.
So, you know, then him and Liz do I think that every couple months it would be like, oh, this big thing that Carrie did would bring them together.
And so the police also found on Liz's phone
that picture
of herself
tied up in a trunk with duct tape on her mouth. So things are starting to look a little suspicious with Liz because...
So then they decide that they're going to test the fingerprint that was found on the mint container in the console of Carrie's car. And lo and behold, it has Liz's fingerprint on it.
So now, because remember, they have this car just sitting, right? So this comes back. So the mint container now, they know it was Liz. They are now investigating that, like, Liz is the suspect.
But they know that she'll hang herself if they give her enough rope. So they are bringing her in to question her about stuff and kind of leading her. So she's hell-bent now to blame Amy Flora,
the first girlfriend, the mother of his kids.
And at this time also, Dave's gun has gone missing.
And she said it to police. Dave bought a gun. Dave has a gun. Like literally the day before, and it went missing.
And Dave called it in because they told him that they were suspecting Liz, kind of gave him the heads up. And he was like,
no,
that's not true.
way.
Like, we've had text messages at the same time. There's no way she would have put herself through this.
Someone burnt her house down.
Yeah, her pets died.
Like, someone wrote "whore from Dave" on her garage. Like, oh, God.
So on December 5th, 6 days after he reports his gun missing, the cops get a call from a woman who claims that she's been shot.
She's out for a stroll by herself
at nighttime.
At night. First of all, red flag, neon yellow flag. If you're being aggressively stalked and harassed, You're just going to go fucking take a stroll at Big Lake Park and then fucking late at night in the dark? So anyway, she said she's sitting on this bench and she hears a woman come up behind her and says, how do you like fucking Dave? Which, like I said, Dave is not worth all this. But
so
this
it turns
lady-
out the lady that was shot is Liz.
Yes, the lady who was shot was Liz. She was shot in the femur.
In the femur, yeah.
Which, like, in the femoral, you got your femoral artery in your leg. Like, if someone's gonna hit you there, that's sketchy. So, anyway, somebody who has a problem with her fucking Dave.
But she says she didn't see who it was at first,
no,
but
it's from
then
the
she
back.
was pretty sure that it was.
How does someone shoot you in the femur from the back in the front? That's what I don't understand.
And she thought eventually that it was probably Amy Flora.
Yes, that's what she concurred. And obviously now the police are like, they're a little bit
They know she shot herself
apprehensive.
because
Yes.
Amy had an alibi. And then
Yeah.
Dave finally was like, oh my God. That's
Yeah.
what made Dave finally clue in
Yeah.
that this bitch is fucking like beyond any kind of crazy you could even ever imagine in your whole life.
And obviously, you guys know this is Murder with My Mother. So somebody in this is dead. And it doesn't appear to be Liz or Dave as much as you probably thought the buildup of like they're being aggressively stalked. They're probably going to get murdered because, like, no, because Liz is actually has been behind
All of
this. So
So
now
they spent over 3,000 hours. They downloaded her phone again because they kept bringing her in and saying like, oh, well, why don't you write a letter to Amy and maybe she'll, just like bait her, make her mad.
make her admit what happened.
So Liz keeps coming in with all of these different emails.
Forwarding emails, yeah. Like,
from Amy. And they're like, they're admitting to everything. They're
Mm-hmm.
admitting to killing
killed
Carrie,
Carrie.
and like how it happened. And I killed Carrie in her own car.
I stabbed
I
her
stabbed
in the
her.
chest.
Like all of this stuff.
And then I threw her in a garbage can with crap, which is like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming she means like a shit-filled
I
garbage
burned her
can,
and put her in a garbage can with crap.
which is like, what?
And
That's just
so
extra.
they
It's
went back-
unnecessary.
They went back to the car and they took off the seat cover of the Explorer and it was saturated in human blood, which came back as a match to Carrie. So
Imagine this. Liz is really creepy looking too. Like when he said like she's sexy, I was like, she looks like a fucking ghoul that hides in a haunted house. Like she's creepy looking. And so imagine she probably hid in Carrie's back seat
and stabbed her.
and just stabbed her when she got in the car in the morning
That
before
morning.
you're going to work.
Yeah.
And stole her phone. But then it gets even weirder because, again, they're not telling Liz this yet that they know. But what they get Dave to do, because Dave now knows it was Liz. Like, Dave's like, oh, fuck. Like, he said, he's like, I felt so, how do you not know? Like, how did I miss that for all
Yeah.
these years? And so they're getting him to bait Liz by saying, he messages Liz and says, and this is after she's sent these emails. Now, thinking that Amy Flora.
She's like trying to set up Amy, but she's
Yeah.
fucking beyond ridiculous.
But Dave emails her or texts her or whatever saying, I actually got back with Amy and I'm moving back in with her. So Liz emails the cops or calls them and is like, this isn't fair. She killed someone. She's even admitted it to me. Da, da, da,
Now
and
they're back
now she gets Dave. Like, it's like, okay, bitch, you're really starting to, there's some holes that are being poked in your story. So.
Well, and when they downloaded her, or they spent 3,000 hours, the forensic data analysis on her phone, they found she had an app that you could time text messages to come in
Gotta love
staggered.
technology.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed.
Now mom's going to be like texting me.
Hey, Dave. So they knew that it was her. So finally they brought her in. She still had no idea. She thought she was much smarter, as we often say about killers. They're narcissists and they think that no one's as smart as they are.
Yeah.
So they brought her in on an unpaid traffic violation and sat her down and basically said, like, we know that you killed Carrie. We know that you did all of this stuff. And she literally, I think she believed herself.
Yeah.
She was like,
she's like a 13-year-old me when I would get caught lying about something. Like when I put water in the vodka in the freezer.
and I kept it in the freezer for a reason.
For a
'cause
reason.
I
which,
knew.
I mean, duh. I only did that once. But it's like, I remember defending it like, I did it. And then like rolling my eyes and like, this is what she's doing. She's like, I didn't kill her. Like rolling her eyes.
I don't think you never
glaring.
even met her. I just passed her.
Yeah, why would I even do that? That's crazy. And it's like, okay, you are clearly, like, they have all of this stuff deleted. Like,
and then it got even worse because they found out that the check that Carrie had sent her mom proving that she had sold her stuff, the name on that check was Shanna Elizabeth Golyer, and
Liz.
it was Liz's name. And then when they went through with a search warrant in Liz's house, they found a bunch of Carrie's belongings in Liz's house that had been put there before Carrie was even killed. So in the 2 weeks when she started dating Dave until she was missing, they found her video camera with videos of her on it.
With a video of her saying, my son's
Explorer has been vandalized, which they then
spray painted. You see the video. It's
Yep.
like Carrie like doing a selfie. And she's like, someone thought it was a good idea to give Max's Explorer a
new paint job.
And it's like all spray painted around the whole thing.
And then the biggest, most creepiest, terriblest thing they found, I guess most terrible thing they found, was a picture of a foot.
A decomposing foot.
With a tattoo on it. And it turned out that it was the tattoo that Carrie had on her foot.
And it's so sad because Carrie had the tattoo on her foot said mother.
Yeah, in
Japanese or Chinese
script.
character, yeah. And it's sad because she loved her own mother and she loved being a mother. So that's why her mom knew she would never leave. She would never leave her and she would never leave Max. It's like me just up and leaving. You'd be like, arrest Carlos, he killed her. Like,
yeah, I mean,
for
I
sure,
would know.
100%. But that's just like having someone's. So that means she had her body
for a while,
for a long time.
Yep, before she put it in a garbage can full of crap.
And burned it, which I wonder.
And so they never, ever, ever, ever to this day have found Carrie's body. So Liz had to go to trial, and it was a no-body trial, which can be very hard because it's usually just circumstantial evidence. But
and she had a really good defense lawyer.
She did.
Like they said he was like known as like a hot shot around Nebraska. Like he always got people off. And so
did Dave.
Yeah, no kidding. Dave and her lawyer were just two peas in a pod.
So even her lawyer, as the story went on and on and on, I saw an interview with him and he was like, this was fucking brutal. Like, I can't even believe this chick did all this stuff.
No.
And so she was found guilty and given a life sentence. And she still reaches out from prison saying that she's not going to rest until the real killer is found.
And so so if you guys are true crime fans, which you probably are because you're listening to this podcast, Anne Rule, she wrote the book
She's the OG.
Beside Me, and it's just Stranger Beside Me, right?
Yeah.
The book about Ted Bundy. She had a friendship with Ted Bundy, which, I mean, I don't know if it was much of a friendship. He's also a narcissistic sociopath who liked to talk and talk and talk. And what kind of true crime author doesn't want to listen to Ted Bundy sit there and talk for a long time? So her daughter, Leslie Rule, actually wrote a book about this case called The Tangled Web.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Tangled Web. Yeah, it's a good book. Haven't read it, but it's probably good because she's a Rule. So, you know, the OG.
So that is who Shanna Elizabeth Golyer, actually writes to these days. She won't give an interview to anyone.
No.
But she still steadfastly denies that she had anything to do with it, even though there's a fucking mountain the size of Mount Everest of evidence against her.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, if that didn't twist your knickers, I don't know what will. And I am definitely taking some time off dating.
Yeah, you're not allowed. Like, I'm going to be like, you're grounded. Like, you're not allowed.
I'll find a way to sneak out of the house.
I know you would, but no, just again, I mean, PSA, stay safe. Dating, you never know. You never, ever know who's beside you all
Trust
the
your
time.
gut.
Yeah, trust your gut.
Because I've gone against it a couple times.
Yeah, and you've gone against my gut too, which, I mean, whatever. That's fine. But yeah, that was the case of the murder, the strange disappearance and murder
of Carrie Farver
/ stalking, and like it has so many layers to this story, and you know we love a good layer episode. So,
and if anybody that slept with Dave happens to listen to this, I would like a review because I don't get it.
Please let us know what the fuck was the what was the big deal about Dave. But you know what? Again, that comes from somebody's self-worth and self-value. Yeah. Like, obviously, if you're so obsessed with somebody and playing it cool, that's the thing. Dating in these days, if someone's like, if you're not okay with having just like a a physical relationship, don't agree to
have
that.
it.
You don't need to. You don't need to have a relationship like that. You can get everything you need and more.
From a vibrator.
Well, yeah, there you go. But no, like
Yeah.
people these days are so like, oh, play it cool. I'm not gonna, let's just fuck or whatever. And it's like, oh, God, like.
Is that what they said in your day? Because you haven't been single for a minute.
Yeah, I haven't been single for a while. Kind of went from one relationship kind of into a next. So, but yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed episode 40, and
Yeah.
we will see you next time for episode 41.
We will,
And feel free to send your ideas.
Yes.
And thanks.
And I think it's your pick next time. So
Yeah.
So you can pick an episode.
Excellent.
But something I wanted to bring up is obviously you guys know we love true crime. I don't know if you guys knew. I've said it like 1,800 times. But Jeffrey Dahmer. So Dahmer, I don't know if I'm just broken or like if I'm just something, but I was so surprised about how many people did not know or were not familiar with the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Like so many people I'm seeing like, this is fucking horrible. Like this, it is horrible, but it's like, where you guys been? This happened in like before I was born.
Yeah, but probably a lot of people's parents didn't like allow them to
Like,
watch
watch
stuff
Jeffrey
like that,
Dahmer.
or
No, and for me, it's just part of that's like I don't
Your
know.
upbringing.
Well, it is, but like even someone could be like, "Oh, May 21st." I'm like, "Hey, you got the same birthday as Jeffrey Dahmer." I just know that, which again, maybe I'm just fucked up and dark, and thank you, mother. But I mean, I was just so taken back that so many people had no idea. Like, I feel like people should. That's part of history. Like,
yeah, it is.
it is. I mean, it's
Well,
a fucking
and that-
horrible
that
part
was
of history.
terrible.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But again,
It was a big deal.
It was a huge deal because he was like killing people and eating them and, but I don't know. Like I said, I was just taken back. I was taken back that nobody knew who Jeffrey Dahmer was or didn't know the details. There's been 9,000 specials done about him because of the excess of fucked upness that he, brought to that part of the United States, which, yeah. So I don't know. I'm sure all of you guys have watched it. It's really well done. Evan Peters.
The actor's fantastic.
Amazing. Because if you know Jeffrey Dahmer, if you've watched, if you've seen, I've seen like every single
Well, because he
special.
was really forthright after he was caught.
Well, he
and
right away was like, yes, I did it.
Yeah.
Yes, it happened. This is all the details. This is all
Yeah.
the, and obviously you can't deny when like 3 heads are found in your fridge and all the other stuff that's, was found. But horrible, horrible, horrible serial killer. But I was just very surprised that apparently nobody knew anything about him. So
now you know.
now you know. But if you haven't watched it, watch it. It's good. But Carlos was like, how do you know what's going to happen next? I'm like, I literally could make my own special about this because I've watched it so many times. So, yeah, but
Anyway,
after you watch that, tune in like, 3 weeks and listen to episode 41 of Murder with My Mother. So this has been episode 40 of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother. Bye, guys.
bye.